Picture this. You're holding a newborn in the middle of the Ice Age. No diapers, no crib, no hospital. Just predators, freezing nights, and a world where every day is a fight to survive. And yet somehow, early humans raised their children. Not just one or two, but entire generations. They taught them to walk, to hunt, to survive. Without books, without schools, without YouTube tutorials. So how did they do it? Forget everything you think you know about parenting. The truth about child rearing in the Stone Age is raw, real, and surprisingly familiar. Let's travel back and see how cavemen actually raised their kids, and what it says about us today. Raising children in prehistoric times wasn't easy, but it wasn't reckless either. In fact, anthropologists now believe that early humans may have had some of the most sophisticated parenting systems ever developed. Systems born not out of luxury, but necessity. Let's start with biology. Human infants are unusually helpless compared to other animals. A baby zebra can run hours after birth. A baby human can't even hold its head up. This meant that early humans needed a long-term cooperative approach to child rearing, and that's exactly what they developed. The earliest human communities practiced something called alloparenting, the idea that everyone, not just the biological parents, played a role in raising a child. Grandmothers, siblings, aunts, uncles, even unrelated members of the group helped feed, protect, and teach the young. This wasn't just kindness, it was survival strategy. The grandmother hypothesis, a leading theory in anthropology, suggests that one reason humans live so long after menopause is that older women played a crucial role in raising grandchildren. Their knowledge and assistance increased a child's chances of survival and made communities more resilient. Children were carried constantly, wrapped in animal hides, slung across backs, or held against the body. Skin-to-skin contact wasn't a bonding technique. It was warmth, safety, and communication. Mothers breastfed on demand, often for years, because it provided not just nutrition, but immunity. Sleeping arrangements were communal. There were no cribs. Children slept among adults, sometimes in circles for warmth. This constant contact meant that children absorbed language, gesture, and group behavior from birth. Discipline? Not in the way we think of it. Early human children weren't punished. They were modeled. They learned by watching, by imitation, by participating in daily life, not being separated from it. And this immersion meant they learned fast. Toddlers joined in foraging. 5-year-olds tracked animals. By adolescence, kids were contributing members of the group. There were no teenagers, just young adults. These weren't perfect systems. Children died often, from disease, injury, exposure, but those who survived became deeply embedded in their communities. Their sense of belonging wasn't taught, it was lived. And all of this happened without toys, books, or formal lessons. So how did children actually learn in such a world? Caveman parenting was more hands-on and more effective than we ever imagined. So how did cavemen teach their children everything from walking to weapon making, without schools, textbooks, or screens? The answer lies in something we often overlook: embedded learning. In early human societies, children didn't sit and learn passively. They lived their lessons. Learning was a constant, seamless part of daily survival. There were no separate classrooms. The world was the classroom, and everyone was the teacher. Kids learned by imitation. They watched how adults chipped stones into tools, how they scanned the landscape for signs of danger, how they prepared hides for warmth, or picked the right berries from a bush. They weren't told what to do. They watched, tried, failed, and learned. And this wasn't accidental. Adults knew they were being watched, and they modeled intentionally. Anthropologists have observed that in traditional foraging societies today, adults exaggerate their actions slightly when children are near, not unlike how modern parents might perform tasks to teach a toddler. Cavemen likely did the same. This form of learning is called observational apprenticeship. It's how kids picked up language, tool use, social rules, and survival skills without ever being sat down and taught. Especially critical. Though early humans didn't have structured grammar the way we do, they used rich vocalizations, gestures, and expressions to communicate. Children were immersed in this from birth, and because language was tied directly to action, naming, pointing, instructing, it became intuitive. Children weren't excluded from adult activities. They played, but even play had purpose. Throwing sticks, mock wrestling, and digging in the dirt weren't distractions. They were training. And because kids played in mixed-age groups, younger ones learned from older peers, faster and often more eagerly than from adults. This is sometimes called vertical and horizontal learning. Vertical learning comes from parents and elders. Horizontal comes from siblings and friends. Stone Age children had both, constantly. As for motivation, it came naturally. A child who couldn't keep up, who didn't know what plants to avoid or how to find water, was a liability. Survival encouraged learning, but not through fear, through necessity. Kids weren't punished into knowledge, they were welcomed into it. There's even evidence that storytelling played a huge role. Around evening fires, elders likely told tales, not just for entertainment, but for instruction. Stories about ancestors, animals, weather, and the spirit world. These stories passed on moral codes, practical tips, and emotional resilience. This kind of immersive, community-driven education built incredibly competent kids. Not just obedient, but aware. Not just skilled, but socially intelligent. So if learning was embedded in daily life, what about emotional support? What happened when a child got hurt, sick, or scared? The answer reveals a deeply human side to caveman parenting. We often imagine cavemen as cold, harsh, and emotionally distant, focused only on survival. But recent research tells a different story. Far from being indifferent, early humans were deeply responsive to the emotional needs of their children. In fact, some of their parenting practices were gentler and more emotionally attuned than many modern systems. Let's start with physical touch. Skin-to-skin contact wasn't just common, it was constant. Babies were carried almost non-stop, pressed against caregivers throughout the day. That kind of proximity regulated breathing, heart rate, and stress hormones. It created secure bonds long before psychology gave it a name. Children weren't isolated when they cried. They were soothed immediately, often by multiple caregivers. The alloparenting model meant there was always someone nearby, a sibling, aunt, or elder, to provide comfort. There was no cry-it-out strategy. The tribe moved together, and emotional support moved with it. Even discipline was different. Rather than punishment, early societies relied on modeling and correction through example. If a child misbehaved, they weren't hit or yelled at. They were gently redirected, ignored, or shown better behavior by a respected elder. Social cohesion mattered more than dominance. In modern terms, we'd call this attachment parenting, gentle parenting, or even community parenting. But to early humans, it was just normal. It made sense. And here's where the contradiction hits. For all our advances, many modern parenting systems isolate the child. Cribs in separate rooms, long hours away from caregivers, digital distraction instead of human attention. Early humans couldn't afford that kind of separation. They lived tightly. Children were included in every moment, every mood, every decision. And while their world was physically dangerous, it was often emotionally secure. Take grief, for example. Fossil evidence shows that children were buried with care. In some cases, they were laid to rest with beads, tools, or flowers. That's not just disposal, it's mourning, it's memory, it's love, and in one stunning case, a Neanderthal child with a physical disability was cared for well beyond infancy. Despite being unable to walk, that child lived for years, carried and protected, even though they couldn't contribute. That's compassion. That's humanity. So maybe the caveman wasn't a cold survivor after all. Maybe they were more emotionally in tune than we've given them credit for. And that changes everything. Because it means parenting has never just been about keeping a child alive. It's about keeping them whole. We'll bring this all to life with a glimpse into a single day of parenting in the Stone Age, and how every action, even the smallest, was a choice for survival and connection. Let's zoom in on a single moment. One day, in one tribe, tens of thousands of years ago. Dawn breaks over a wide, grassy plain. A small band of early humans stirs in the dim light. The air is cool, the sky pale. A woman, young by today's standards, maybe 16 or 17, cradles a newborn wrapped in fur. The baby's skin is flushed, and his eyelids flutter in sleep. She isn't alone. Her own mother is nearby, tending to a fire made small for warmth, not cooking. Two older children, barely more than toddlers, are giggling, chasing each other around a pile of discarded bones. A teenage boy crouches nearby, sharpening a stick. This isn't a family like ours. It's the family. One extended unit, many generations under one sky. The young mother nurses the baby without fanfare. There are no bottles, no schedules. The child fusses, and she adjusts. The rhythm is ancient. It requires no instruction. Later, she hands the baby to her younger sister. Just a girl, maybe 8, but she holds the child with practiced confidence. It's not a novelty, it's training. She's watched, learned, and now contributes. The group prepares to move. Today, they'll follow a herd seen 2 days ago. The stronger adults will track ahead. The rest will gather roots, berries, insects along the way. But the children? They're not left behind. They walk, they watch, they imitate. As they move, a child falls and scrapes a knee. There's no panic. A man, likely the father, kneels, presses a wad of chewed herbs onto the cut, and offers the child a carved shell filled with water. No scolding, no ignoring, just care. Midday, the group pauses. In a shaded area beneath an overhang, the adults eat, passing pieces of roasted tuber and dried meat. The children cluster around one of the elders, who begins to speak. Not in full sentences, but in sounds, gestures, and rhythm. A story. It's about a wolf, or maybe a storm, or both. The children are wide-eyed. They repeat parts back, mimic the growls, the hand shapes. It's more than play, it's memory, culture, emotional processing. As night falls, they form a circle. No cribs, no beds. Children curl between adults, covered in hides. The baby is fed one more time. Then, sleep comes, safe, secure, connected. Not one child is alone. Not one moment is wasted. This isn't just a day. It's a blueprint. A model of how community, learning, and love coexisted under the most basic conditions and created something powerful. Continuity. That's how cavemen raised their kids. We'll explore how that ancient wisdom still echoes in how we parent today. So, what does prehistoric parenting have to do with us? Modern parents with minivans, Wi-Fi, and sleep apps. More than you might think. At its core, Stone Age parenting was built around 5 key principles: constant contact, community involvement, observational learning, emotional responsiveness, and shared responsibility. And guess what? Every one of these ideas is making a comeback. Take baby wearing, for example. Once dismissed as primitive, it's now embraced by millions around the world. Research shows that holding infants close improves bonding, reduces crying, and supports healthy development. Cavemen didn't do this because it was trendy. They did it because it worked. Or look at breastfeeding on demand. For years, parenting books pushed rigid feeding schedules. Now, science says, follow the baby's cues. That's exactly what prehistoric mothers did. Then there's the rising interest in allo-parenting. Parents today are rediscovering the power of community. Grandparents, neighbors, even co-housing communities. Because parenting wasn't meant to be a solo act. It never was. Modern education, too, is beginning to echo ancient wisdom. Play-based learning, outdoor classrooms, mixed-age learning groups, these all resemble the natural, immersive ways early human children were raised. We're beginning to remember that kids learn best when they're involved, not just instructed. And emotional development? That's front and center now. Gentle parenting, secure attachment, responsive caregiving, all mirror what prehistoric tribes did instinctively. Nurture through connection, not control. Even our interest in storytelling, rituals, and family traditions is an echo. We crave what early humans lived, meaning woven into the mundane. Of course, our world is different now. The dangers are less about predators and more about stress, screens, and social disconnection. But the solutions? They haven't changed much. We need touch. We need tribe. We need shared wisdom. We need to be seen. And our children need it even more. Maybe the Stone Age wasn't just about survival. Maybe it was about thriving together. So, how did cavemen raise their kids? They did it with their hands, with their hearts, with their entire communities wrapped around each child like an invisible net. They didn't read parenting books or attend seminars. They didn't schedule playdates or track milestones on apps. But they raised resilient, capable children, ones who carried the human species across thousands of years of chaos and cold, hunger, and hardship. They did it through closeness, through storytelling, through trust and instinct. They did it not as individuals, but as tribes. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we're still looking for today. Not perfection, not performance, but connection. We want to know our kids, really know them, and for them to know they belong to us, to something bigger, to a lineage that began in caves and fires and stone tools. The truth is, our ancestors weren't primitive in their parenting. They were powerful. They held the blueprint we've slowly started to forget, and now, finally, are beginning to remember. So the next time parenting feels overwhelming or disconnected, think of them. No shoes, no smartphones, no safety nets, and still, they raised us. If this story made you rethink how humans raise children, drop a comment below. What part of ancient parenting would you bring back today? And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from humanity's deep past. Because sometimes the oldest answers are the most powerful.